everyone. This is Tim with the Online Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. The coaching carousel spinning round and round, round and round, round and round and round and round. I'll tell you why. We're not going to do a video on every coach that the Giants interview in this first round. We're going to wait till we get more towards the second and final round of the beauty pageant. But, you know, we'll be doing coaching updates. Of course, we have the stream at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday with the Dahmer. I may be doing something with the Bad Dog tonight here on Monday. I'll have to just wait and see. It'll be on his channel. But I want to talk about a player, and I want to talk about a guy that everyone knows is my favorite guy in the draft. It's a guy I don't think the Giants can pass up on. He is a guy that is probably it's been called the most polarizing figure in the draft because he has the unique ability to have the highest upside of potentially any player in the draft and the lowest low side. It could go either way. And that, of course, is Malik Willis. Oh, Malik. I've been following Malik since Auburn. I got really interested in him more and more as a player that first season at Auburn. Not at Auburn, at the Liberty, transferred out of Auburn. So, you know, I've really been watching his ups. I've been watching his downs. And it's one of those things that you're just kind of like, you could see how he could potentially be that superstar, or he could potentially be the bust. But I think he's going to be the superstar. I'm jumping on.
All aboard the Malik Willis Express.
Now, some people think I'm crazy. A lot of people think I'm crazy. But I am, and I have been, comparing Malik Willis to Michael Vick. I've actually been calling Malik Willis, I've been calling him Vick Ultralight. And there's some serious and kind of scary comparisons between the two players. Now, I am probably in the most unique ability that I saw Vick play in 99. That's 1999. Gonna party like it's 1999. I saw the kid play. I saw him all through the early years of his pros in Atlanta. And I can tell you at some times the legend of Michael Vick in some ways has turned into a tall tale. And I'm not saying he's not a fantastic player. He was not the most unique player ever to come out in my mind back in the draft, back in the day. But he's kind of becoming he's kind of becoming more and more of a legend. And you know, and like I said, 2001, there's never been a player that you've seen like Michael Vick. But if you actually do a breakdown of the Vick, do a breakdown of his starting in his college career and going into those first years in the pros, you would think that his statistics were mind-blowing. As a 2-year starter from 1999 to 2000, 3,000, now this is over 2 seasons, 3,279 yards, only completed 56.3% of his passage, 21 touchdowns for a passer rating, at 153, and ran for 1,216 yards and 17 touchdowns at a 5.5 yards a carry. Now, he did lead the NCAA in passing efficiency back in 99, and a record. It was a freshman record, too, of course, at, 180.4, which was the, it's phenomenal. I mean, he had this ability. He had this panache about him. He had this maneuverability. I remember the 2000 season when he ran for 210 against Boston College. You know, I remember that. I remember when I think it was the West Virginia's game. I think it was the West Virginia game where he had a total of 288 yards of offense and 2 touchdowns and a 48-20 win. And then the following week, he backed it up and he led Virginia Tech from a 14-0 deficit and beat Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. And he put the game away with a 55-yard run with 1 minute and 34 seconds left. He was a guy that was phenomenal. I mean, but he didn't have the prolific college career that people make him out to be. He had highlights. He had moments. And I've said this before. You could be a player of moments, and sometimes you string moments together that just make it so phenomenal that you forget about some of the little things. You forget about some of the things. And the immense talent that he had, you kind of forgot about some of the things that he did wrong or didn't do correctly. And like I said, in the mind's eye back in 1999, this fades. And he was a special player. I will tell you 100,000%. He was a special player. He was a fantastic player. I remember when he got hurt against Pittsburgh. He missed that game, and then he missed the next game against Central Florida. But then he went on to play his final game at Virginia Tech. I guess it was in the Gator Bowl against the Tigers, against Clemson. And Virginia Tech won. Vick was the MVP. And like I said, what he has accomplished, what he did in those 2 seasons actually got him inducted into Virginia Tech Sports Hall of Fame in 2017. So he did so many things. But like I said, the legend of Vick, I think at some points now has gotten greater than what he had accomplished. Hey, look at his final season in 2000. He completed 97 passes for 54.2, 1,439 yards, 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He was a part of a really good Virginia Tech team 2 years in a row. I mean, in 2000, they finished the season 6 overall. They won 11-1. And then if you look at 2001, they were also 11th-1, and they tied in the coaches poll. I think they were 3rd overall. In the AP, they were 2nd overall. So he was part of good teams. He was part of really good teams. He was also in the Big East Conference. And that's the other thing people need to remember. Outside of back in the day, the Big East Conference used to be Virginia Tech, Miami, Boston College, Syracuse, West Virginia, Pittsburgh, Temple, and Rutgers. That's not a power. That's not a power. That was not the powerhouse conference. That's not a. I mean, I'm not. Like I said, you could only beat the guys that you play. And I've said that 1,000,000 times. I think I've said that 1,000 times. So if you take a look at comparison to Vick's college career, and then you look what Malik Willis did. I know it's a different era, but a different time in Liberty. Something almost 20 years later. Liberty first year for Malik. His team went 9-1. He completed 170 passes out of 265 for 64.2 for 2,250 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 14 rushing touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So he accounted for 34 total touchdowns and ran for 944 yards. Last year, which he actually played in 3 more games, which is his bad season, his team went 8-5, won the bowl game. He completed 61% of his passes and he threw 339 times, and he completed 207 for 2,857 yards, 27 touchdowns. He doubles interception totals to 12, but he had most of those, like 8 of those in 3 games. And he had another 13 rushing touchdowns. So that means he accounted for 40 touchdowns. If you take a look, Michael Vick's clip rushing the ball that year for his total career was 5.5 yards and 17 touchdowns. Malik is 5.8 and 29. His passer rating, Michael Vick's passer rating was 153. Malik 152. Total touchdowns for Michael Vick, 21 in passing to Malik's 48. Interceptions, 18 for our old buddy Malik and 12 for Michael Vick. And Malik threw the ball 618 times compared to 332 times. There's an eerie similarity there, and Malik has done more and has proven more that he's more proficient passer. One of Michael Vick's biggest deficiencies coming out of Virginia Tech and going to Atlanta was the fact that he sometimes his accuracy was not sometimes. A lot of times his accuracy wasn't there. And if you take a look at the totality of his first couple seasons in Atlanta, he didn't even start. He only started 2 games that first season in Atlanta. But if you look at the full seasons that he played, and we're going to take out 2003 when he got hurt, he was at 54.9 completion percentage, 56, 55, 52. It wasn't until he went to Philadelphia and completed 62.6 in 2010 did he reach the pinnacle. Now, the thing with Michael Vick was, like I said, he could move with the ball, he could motor with the ball, which was shown in 2006 when he ran for 1,039 yards. But again, he only ran for 2 touchdowns. And he only passed for 2,400 yards. And he accounted really for 22 total touchdowns that year. Vick's total touchdowns, if you look at it, and you have to subtract, of course, the 2 years he was in prison and the 1 year in Philadelphia that he didn't really do much, he's only thrown for 133 touchdowns against 88 interceptions for 2,000. I can't even talk today, for 22,000 yards. So in some ways, his ability to be something different made him that, and made him the player that just made him look spectacular. And like I said, Vick to me was a player of moments. He had these moments. He became the first quarterback to throw for more than 250 yards and rush for over 100 yards in one game. He set the postseason record for a quarterback with 119 yards rushing, and that was in the first round of 2004 playoffs. So, I mean, he was a Pro Bowl player. He was the first quarterback ever to rush for 1,000 yards. He was something, and he set a record at that point of 8.4 yards a carry. He was something that you've never seen before. But even doing all that, his team only finished 7-9. So that ability to run the ball did not equate into that ability of passing the ball. And now you're probably thinking, you're bashing Michael Vick. I'm not bashing Michael Vick because Michael Vick set the gold standard as a running quarterback. But the problem with Michael Vick was, like I said, he did not turn into the passer that he probably always could have been because he was relying so much on his wheels like he did in that a couple seasons, I should say in 2010 and 2011 with Philadelphia, when he completed highs of 62.6% of his passes, over 3,000 yards. And it's funny to believe that he came in the league 2001, he didn't throw for over 3,000 yards in 2010, and 21 touchdowns at the time was his highest total. So he was a spectacular player. He was a guy that could move the ball. The problem with Vick was he was well ahead of his time. He was beyond ahead of his time. And it took him almost to 2010 for the league to figure out exactly what to do with Michael Vick. Now, the thing is, Malik Willis, to me, has similar and kind of scary attributes. They're two guys that can motor. They're two guys that can really, really put a zip on the ball. He can go downfield, and he can get you those tough yards, Malik Willis says. He can fight for those yards that you need to get. He proved it a bunch of times, and especially last year with a bad Liberty team, where the poor kid, at one point, I can't remember what game it was, but I said it before, he ran for like 28 yards on like 26 carries. So and was sacked 9 times. So he can take the physical pounding. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, he is a developmental quarterback, just like Michael Vick was. Michael Vick didn't start really playing until year 2. He should sit a year. Now, he's a guy that you're going to have to do, you're going to have to RPO and do a run-heavy style offense. And you're probably going to want to start him out by featuring kind of some passing in the shallow areas of the field and do some vertical stuff. If you really want to get an essential look at this kid, the games to watch, you got to watch the North Carolina State game, the Syracuse game, and the Virginia Tech game. Those were in 2000. In 2001, watch the Louisiana game. Watch the Ole Miss game. It wasn't a good game, but watch the Ole Miss game, the Old Dominion game, and the UAB game. And like I said, the Louisiana game was not a good game either. But those are the games I'm telling you to watch because I'm giving you the good and the bad. Take the good and take the bad. There, take them home. There you have the facts of life. The facts of life. Now, if you really want to get into some similarities to Michael Vick, his accuracy. He's got he has some issue as a touch passer. And he's got to be more consistent with ball placement, which Michael Vick was at the same time as well. Now, a lot of problem is he kind of comes in a little hot with his passes. He comes in a little bit of he comes a little bit high inside. There's a pitch high and inside. And he does that a lot of times in the shallow area of the fields, which will bounce off the receivers and has a chance to get interception. He needs to change the tempo and the pace on his throws, especially in the short and intermediate throws itself. But when you're throwing downfield, the kid can sling it. The kid can sling it and he can throw it. He's got a great windup. He's got a great throw. He's got to work on his footwork, and he's got to work on putting the ball in the right position. But when he's on, he can throw on a dot. I've said it before, he can stop on a dime and give you 9 cents change. Also, one of the biggest detractors of Willis is going to be his decision making. Now, I think he's his own worst enemy because especially in that last year in Liberty, he had to create for himself. He had to try to make something happen. And that's the thing. And that's where you run into those big negative plays. And he kind of walks a tightrope act with that. He's a highly aggressive, highly athletic quarterback. But the problem is sometimes that aggressiveness gets the best of him. I don't think he's got a decision-making issue. I think his biggest issue is the fact that he tries to do way too much because he had no talent around him and he thought he had to make every play. Now, if you look at his first year as a starter in 2020, he was in total control of that offense. He played within himself. We're going to use some coach's cliche. He had the ability to get into the second level. He had the ability to just take over games. And that's what he's got, and that's what he's really got to work on. Now, the biggest issue also in the pocket is he's such a free runner. It resulted in some strip sacks. Strip sacks and turnovers in 2021. He sees the pressure, though. He knows how to move. He knows how to make the first defender miss. But the problem is he's just got to hold on to the ball. And he's got to learn to, his thing is he's got to learn to give up on plays. He's got to understand that. He's a kid that can go through his progressions. He can change the tempo of the offense. And he can really, like I said, and that one thing I love about him, even when he's scrambling, he's always got his eyes downfield. He's always looking to work the middle of the field. He's got a sharp release, man. He's kind of got like a little, got like a little slingshot working for him. And he kind of reminds me of Holmes in a little different way. He has the capability of flipping out the ball in kind of some unorthodox angles. So it's kind of a Mahomian thing. So, he's got that going for him too. And now if you want to look at him inside the pocket, the problem, like I said, with his pocket presence last year was he had no pocket. He was always dropping back into the heart of the rush. And that was because of the fact that he had such a terrible offensive line. And I don't want to say, but he got greedy at times because of the fact that he knew that he was above the talent of the rest of the team, that he had to do more than he had to do more than he probably should have been doing, but he had no one else to do it. If you want to look at also his arm strength, just like Vick, the kid's got a cannon for an arm. If you talk about being able to make all the throws on the field, go watch some of those games that I just told you to watch. He's just got the ability. And like I said, his mobility, in my mind, like Michael Vick, like Lamar Jackson, and I think he's just as a dynamic runner as Lamar is, but I think he's got more of that Vick in him. Vick, for everything that he couldn't do passing-wise early in his career, he made up for it with his ability to scramble and his ability to move in the pocket. And that in some ways really tends me to lead him more towards Vick because he has that aggressiveness. He has that elusiveness. He really does. And if you talk about this kid and his personality, everyone says he's a leader. Everyone says that he is a guy that you want to have the ball, that he looks after his teammates, that he defends his teammates, and that he gets it on the field. And he isn't afraid. Sometimes I think and I've said this before, sometimes I think Daniel Jones is afraid to have the big football moment. And that's what Vick isn't. He is not afraid. He's going to have to work on his footwork. He's going to have to work on his pocket, not his pocket presence, but he's going to have to work on his presence in the pocket in regards to just knowing where his feet are. I know it's a weird thing to say, but he's got to just work on his mobility with his feet. He's got to just he's got to get more clean movements inside the pocket because he needs to become more than a runner. He has to become more of a thrower. And I think a lot of his footwork issues led to some of his accuracy issues. And I think all those can be corrected. And like I said, to me, he's on skates, man. He's on ice. Everyone else is wearing tennis shoes and he's on the ice with the skates. And that to me reminds me so much of Michael Vick. I think he's going to be a game changer. I think he's ripe for the new NFL environment. It's not even new now. It's been a progression over the last 10 years. I think you're going to easily see a kid that could be a Pro Bowl caliber player. But the only problem is, like I said, there could be various outcomes to his career. It depends on where he goes, who coaches him, and in the system he's in. He lands in the wrong environment, it could get ugly. And I think the way the Giants are building this staff and this organization, that he is going to be the right person, the right quarterback for this team for the next 10 years. Just my thought process. Look out for us with Dom tomorrow, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking all sports. I'll give you an update if I go on with the Bad Dog on Monday. So you know what, guys? I mean, that's my Malik Willis spiel. Will I give another one? Probably before the season starts. Hell yeah. And again, this is Tim with the Online Big Blue, bringing the best of New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could like, please subscribe, ring that bell notification, that'd be awesome.